I started a job at Kum Go convenience stores in their real estate department. Worked for a great gentleman, Neil Broderick, hired me. It was just me and him. Didn't know a thing about real estate. He taught me everything. I don't leave my job at Hy-Vee because I can't leave for whatever reason.
If this ends with you telling me you got to go to a shift after this.
So I still work nights and weekends at Hy-Vee, which is, a big no-no. Like moonlighting was against the rules at that point. So I was like secretly doing this.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Niki Mason here on the show. Niki, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited you're here. Say, for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
So I'm Niki Mason. I live in Waukee, Iowa. I'm the vice president of development for McClure Engineering Group.
Where'd you grow up?
I moved to Iowa when I was in high school as a freshman, went to Valley, moved from Washington, D.C. So in the early 90s, that was a bit of a culture shock.
What brought the family here?
My mom had got a job. She was the CFO of Wells Fargo Mortgage. At the time, it was Norwest. And so moved here for that and never thought we would move. I mean, in our neighborhood growing up in Northern Virginia, we had Navy, Army. I had friends moving in and out of the neighborhood every 2 years, but I was the one that was stable and stayed. And then one day she said, she was interviewing at a couple different locations and we moved to Iowa. But my dad grew up in Cedar Rapids and Marion. And so I was familiar with Iowa, but never thought in a million years we would move to Iowa.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine that was quite a culture shock.
It was.
What was that like coming on, your first year? What were the pros and cons and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember clearly, like my mom and I, we were on a walk in our neighborhood or down the street somewhere and someone said hi to us and like smiled. And I was like, do we know them? Do we know them? Like it was so foreign. And I just remember that for strangers to say hello. Yeah. And I do feel that I'm an Iowa values girl. I like seeing people at the grocery store. I like going to the fair and bumping into people I haven't seen in a while and like reconnecting. And you don't have that on the East Coast. I mean, you are completely autonomous. You don't know anyone. And so I really liked that component. Yeah. I think it was hard. I had a great friend group and I figured that out, but it's hard to know, like everyone knows everyone. They went to elementary school together. Right. It's not a very, especially then, transient market. And I mean, it's like this person's cousins with this person and, all the connections. And that was difficult just to figure that out and navigate. But I was welcome to a great group of friends. My parents struggled more with that. So how do you make friends? You're working all the time and everyone else has, their friend groups already set. So they didn't stay in Iowa long. As soon as I graduated high school, they moved to Minneapolis. And my sister's 7 years younger than me. So she feels like she grew up in Minneapolis while I grew up in Des Moines. So they just kind of dropped kids off, every few years as they moved to different places. But they needed a bigger city at that point. But Des Moines come such a long ways since then. I mean, just the growth, the culture, the entertainment, arts, since the early 90s.
Tremendous. Yeah. All right. So you graduated high school and what do you do?
So I went to Iowa State. Well, I should back up. First, all through high school and college, I worked at Hy-Vee. Like loved retail, loved working, didn't really love school. And so I commuted to Iowa State, kept my job and my West Des Moines Hy-Vee. For whatever reason, I look back, like I couldn't leave. It was like a part of me and a part of my DNA. I was in their management program and everything. So I didn't have your typical college experience. There wasn't like moving in the dorms, doing any of that. I was working certainly more than I went to school, definitely more than I studied. And after 5.5 years, probably. I got that degree
Yeah.
and went to look out in the workforce and see what was out there.
Well, I suspect you earned a degree, I use that in quotes, at Hy-Vee.
Yeah. I mean, I learned way more, and that's what I tell people all the time. Like,
Right.
I learned all life lessons, how to deal with people. I was managing people at a young age. I mean, I had no business doing that at 18 years old, leading people that are, double my age, and, made a lot of mistakes and learned from those along the way.
Yeah. All right. So you eventually leave Hy-Vee.
Yes.
What do you do?
I don't even eventually leave. I start a job at Kum Go convenience stores in their real estate department. Worked for a great gentleman, Neil Broderick, hired me. It was just me and him. Didn't know a thing about real estate. He taught me everything. I don't leave my job at Hy-Vee because I can't leave for whatever reason.
If this ends with you telling me you got to go to a shift after this.
So I still work nights and weekends at Hy-Vee, which is, a big no-no. Like, moonlighting was against the rules at that point. So I was like secretly doing this. Maybe it's because I got paid so little when I first started that I needed that to be able to live. So start working at Kum Go and on their real estate team and doing a lot of lease administration. I was an administrative assistant was my title. Did a lot of lease administration, working with landlords. We built 1 store a year at that point. So I was able to learn real estate development on a small scale.
Right.
You kind of learn everything from start to finish, doing 1 store a year. And then we started to grow from there.
Leaps and bounds. What year did you start there?
2002.
2002. Okay. And then what year did things really transition at Kum Go from a growth mode standpoint?
Yeah. So in 2004, Kyle Kraus bought the company from his dad, and really he became CEO and set forth his strategy, which was developing more from the ground up. So we started to build out the team and add, specialists. And so instead of me and the VP doing kind of everything, we started to add construction managers, people that did the entitlements, people that were out finding sites. So I was able to do a few of those other roles, more specialty roles, really understand real estate strategy, site selection, new markets, how you create some of that strategy of where you want to grow and develop, and was fortunate enough to be in a lot of those strategy meetings with the C-suite when I had no business being in them. Probably there more to take notes, but was able to contribute and learn from that. So, in those first years, there's growth goals of building, 20, 30 stores, and you never do exactly what you think you're going to do because it's harder than you think and you're developing those competencies. But we're able to work through that and develop that. We did quite a few acquisitions of other convenience store chains in other states, and then we're able to come in and help redevelop that real estate over time.
Yeah. How did your role change over all those years? Maybe fast forward to the end. What year did you leave? And then let's come back. Yeah.
So in 2023, Kyle sold the company to Maverick. So that's when I left Kum Go. But again, I didn't leave. I stayed with the company. Yeah. It just had different ownership. And so I went with Maverick and then joined their executive team. So I was on Kum Go's executive team probably since 2011, 2012. Yeah. So quite a while.
A long time.
And before that, I was vice president of real estate. So I was one of those, I was given some early opportunities to be in the room and leading a team when I really did not have the resume and experience to do that, but was trusted to do that and was really thankful to be able to learn a lot from that over those years and really develop my leadership strategy over that period of time.
You didn't work this hard to earn next to nothing on your money. Savings accounts barely move the needle. Tech stocks, AI stocks, it kind of feels like Vegas out there right now. Rentals, too oftentimes it means tenants, toilets, termites, and not the cash flow you were thinking. Well, so I've got an alternative. Little Guy Loans Co-Lending Fund. Qualified accredited investors are earning 10 to 11% annual passive returns. It's paid quarterly by co-lending with us alongside me on short-term first lien real estate loans right here in the greater Des Moines area. Your money's backed by a real property, not promises. It stays close to home. we've successfully funded well over $10 million in loans right here in Central Iowa. So if you want steady income without headaches, click the link below in the show notes. Let's connect. We'll see if it's a fit for you. Talk to me about real estate at Kum Go. And maybe in some of this is specific to or generalized to retail. When you're going in and deciding on a city, how do you make those decisions? When you're looking at a site, because I'll look at certain sites around town just driving by, I'm going, why is that there?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it make any sense. Or it doesn't seem like it make any sense. And sometimes it's actually really, really good. Sometimes it goes the other direction in a site that I think might be great and it's not great.
Yeah. And some of that evolves over time too, right?
Yeah.
So we looked at a lot of markets. Early on, we looked at markets and we said, we think we need to have some density in a market.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to go into Chicago with just one killer location.
Right.
It's not very efficient. From a operations standpoint, oversight, headcount, it's not very efficient from a distribution. Certainly, like customer perception. I mean, if there's one store in Chicago, who knows you're there?
Correct.
You can't advertise globally, all these things. So we set forth okay, we need a certain level of density in a market. We really analyzed all of our markets and said, hey, these markets, we either need to grow this and have more scale in that market, or we need to get out. So we strategically got out of some markets because we didn't see necessarily the growth there. There's a lot of factors you can look at. There's a lot of different metrics around fuel demand and things like that. I tend to believe if a market is growing, that's good overall for the market.
Sure.
So a certain population size, growth, competition is a big deal as well. And looking at not only the quantity of competition, but the quality. Yeah. And so a lot of different factors that tell you, okay, can we win here?
Yeah. When you're looking at a specific site, what things are driving that kind of decision? Traffic counts on the specific side of the street, some hard corners that are hard and fast. Maybe give me some thoughts there just to how what kind of lens you're looking through when you're looking at something.
Yeah, certainly traffic count.
Yeah.
But there's also a point where there might be too much traffic. Like people if the intersection is too congested, people just want to blow through it. And you also have some risks of access changing. So you have traffic count, but you also have access. And a lot of times, if there's too much traffic, the access isn't very good.
Sure.
Meaning you might have medians, you might only have a right in, right out. Do you have a traffic light? It's also important to have visibility because as people are looking to stop, they need to be able to have, the longer they can see the store, the sign, whatever it is to make that decision, the better. Now, are there times that you can overcome that? Yes. But a lot of times just like that factor of good access, enough traffic, also population density around. And some of that matters. Is it household population? Is it daytime population? Really, if you can get around the clock traffic, either through daytime population, household population, traffic count, with good visibility, great access, that is the ultimate recipe. Yeah. It's just none of those sites really exist out there anymore, and so, or they may not be available. They may not be zoned properly and the city's not willing to let you have that. The city won't let you have the signage that you need to have. And so there's several different components. It's putting that whole Rubik's Cube together and saying, and then with the economics, does this work? Can we get enough business? And there's different types of business within a convenience store. And you'd have this like within any retailer, but a convenience store specifically has your fuel business. It has an inside business. Those aren't always the same. When I need a thing of water, I don't necessarily need fuel. You're not getting fuel usually every day. And then convenience stores are really focused on food now as well. Right. That's another occasion. Now, some of those can go together, but they don't always go together, and they may warrant different things. There's theories around if you're really driving alcohol sales, you want to be on the PM side of the road. People aren't getting alcohol on the way to work, In most cases, hey, you never know. Right. And then, but if you want to drive food, coffee, if you can get someone on their way to work, and get their purchase, well, they also stop on their way home, even if it means that they have to turn left or it's slightly less convenient. But the one thing with convenience stores, it's not a destination. It's all about convenience. And so how do you just make it as easy as possible for people to get in and out and on their way? And so like access with, and sometimes even maybe not being right next to a really busy retailer who the cars are going to compete with each other.
Sure.
That could be more attractive from a site.
That AM, PM side of the street, does that impact then the retail layout and maybe what products you put forward inside the store? Or was there uniformity inside the store?
It was more uniform, more by market or, what was allowed. Some markets you can't sell alcohol.
Sure.
So it depends, but a little more uniformity.
Over a period of time, did you see the low-hanging fruit disappear relative to site selections and locations? I'm wondering how the competition has evolved, become more professional over your tenure there.
Yeah, convenience stores are very regional. So living in Des Moines, Iowa, we have
I think we're the Mecca.
The most competitive convenience store environment. I've never seen anything in the rest of the United States like we have in Des Moines, Iowa. And so there are other markets that are not that way. And so building out markets and gaining that market share in other markets was much easier. Than in Des Moines. But I do think overall, I've been doing this 20 years and you go to different markets and there's not a lot of low-hanging fruit. You've got to be taking down, it just gets more expensive, right?
Sure.
So you're taking down the operating business that not only is selling their real estate, but they want a price for their business in order to get that prime location.
Yeah.
Location.
There's no doubt about that. What year did the sales-leaseback model come on board, and how were you involved, if you were involved?
No, I was very involved in that. So that started probably in 2007 and really just a financing mechanism. We do a sale and leaseback. Instead of going out and getting your typical debt or, like a mortgage on the property, you're able to sell the entire asset and then lease it back over a 20-year period. And so it was an attractive model. There's a lot of investors that were very interested in it. It's a very common model for retailers to grow. So started off, I would say, more of a lower pace, in the beginning. And then we ramped that up over time. And also we had, in the beginning, we had bank covenants that didn't allow you to do all sale leasebacks. You had to have so much equity, so many owned stores. And over time, we just started doing more and more sale leasebacks as the banks had more and more confidence with our performance as a company and retailer.
Yeah. You're saying banks. You're talking about a corporate debt load that's not situated inside of a mortgage.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. How much, if any, did you notice the fact that, or at least for a period of time, that bonus depreciation was there, and in some cases even more than bonus depreciation as we got through that early, 2010-ish era?
Definitely.
How much did that impact the appetite for the sale leaseback?
Yeah, it definitely increased it. And I think also, like, as we did more and more sale leasebacks, the brand was there. And so it became a very competitive environment for our product. But certainly the bonus depreciation and typically later in the year, you don't sell a lot the first quarter. People start to get throughout the year and they're like, wow, I've got a lot of taxes that I owe.
Right.
I need something to defer this. And you see the same thing. Landlords trade stores and Q4 every year.
Landlords trade stores back and forth.
Well, they'll sell and they'll do a 1031 exchange into something else, into another property. And so you see a lot more of that. Most leases have a right of first refusal.
Sure.
So we'd start to see that and we'd say, oh, it's right of first refusal season because landlords were selling and trading into something else.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. How did you notice, and maybe in what ways did the business and or the real estate, but the business as a whole evolve over your whole time there?
I think some of the things that we put in place were really around scaling the business and becoming bigger company and ready for more growth. So I'll give you an example. When I started 20 years ago, there was no HR department. mean, how can you have a company with no HR department? Now, there was payroll and benefits.
Sure.
Someone did those
Yeah.
things, but there wasn't an HR department. And so there wasn't really a real estate team.
Right.
I mean, it was like
Right.
lease administration. And so we started to scale those different functions to really support growth, really started to invest more in analytics and business insights to be able to help people make informed decisions. So I would say we really professionalized overall, also really invested in leadership and talent development. And so that was a big component to make sure that you couldn't manage everything from one seat anymore for every decision as you get bigger. And so we really had to have leaders that were comfortable making those decisions and, executing that overall as you grow and scale.
The fact that competition is so fierce here in town would maybe indicate to me also, knowing who's headquartered here, is that there's tremendous talent here. Did that play? Is that a thumbs up, a thumbs down relative to acquiring talent to help grow the brand?
I think I do agree, there's a lot of talent here and a lot of retail talent.
Yeah.
I think we also had to recruit a lot of people in from other areas as well. So I don't know that it was necessarily enough, but it is a really unique market from a retail talent perspective. If you take it just beyond C-store.
Well, even just, I agree with that. But you were commenting earlier, you go into another city and I'm like, these convenience stores are terrible. I mean, I'm talking major cities too. You go in there like, why? I miss every single option I have at home.
I know, isn't it? It's crazy. And some of those may be that they're grandfathered in.
Sure.
They know if I go redevelop, and I've tried that in a lot of cities.
Sure.
There's certain cities where you were never going to get a gas zoning. The only way was to buy existing horrible looking convenience stores and redevelop them, because then you have a strategy with the city. You have something to give. Okay. If you want to see this redeveloped, we can redevelop it. And so there was a little bit more like give and take within that, and some of those tougher to develop markets. And then you have other markets where, the convenience store knows that if they redevelop, that access is gone. The setbacks come in, the landscaping, all the things. And it's sat there for 50 years the way it is. Yeah. They know they wouldn't fit. They're going to be on a postage stamp, if that's the case.
Hardest city and or state for gas regulations, meaning licenses to be able to build it.
Boulder, Colorado is challenging. I would say over time, I've developed a lot in Colorado. It has become more and more challenging to develop in.
Yeah. Easiest state?
Missouri was very friendly. Arkansas was pretty friendly as well to develop in. Iowa it's a mixed bag. So it depends. There's a lot of municipalities that really great, and then some others that had some more restrictive codes, but clearly, we had over 100 stores in the state, and so figured out how to work together to get it done.
As the company was sold, you made the transition. Everybody did over to Maverick. What was that transition like, and what were you focused on from your role standpoint?
Yeah, so at the time, I was leading all of real estate development. I was also a part of the pitch to sell Kum Go to the various buyers. And so when I joined Maverick, I was the only executive from Kum Go to join the Maverick executive team. Everyone else was let go. And so I knew, my role was open. So there's a little bit of luck involved there. And they needed someone, I think, to run the Des Moines office as well, as we had a base of people here. So I went from being someone that is used to having a great peer support group and leader around me to being kind of the only Kum Goer on the executive team. And I felt like I had the weight of 5,000 people on my shoulders. So Maverick was very welcoming. They included me in everything, but there just come up questions about, tell me about this program. Tell me about that program. And so suddenly I'm answering, trying to explain history on every department's everything.
Everything. You're the go-to.
I'm the go-to.
Yeah.
Go-to for everything. Yeah. Trying to blend the cultures. Yeah. There's a lot of fear, I think, from both companies. And so you would just get, I think it's human nature, different posturing and, fear and feelings that come out with that. So I felt like I was integrating the companies, not only business-wise, not only my team, other teams, I was integrating cultures and trying to do that. And then I was playing therapist and really trying to help people work through their feelings. I can tell them like, hey, let's just see it through. It's going to be okay.
Right.
But you don't really, like, I'm not in charge of every decision.
Right.
I don't have that power. And so it was a difficult period of time, as well as I didn't travel a lot with Kum Go. I did I did early on, and then just through family changes, I stayed home more and didn't have to travel as much. And then now my boss and my peers and 2/3 of my team are based in Salt Lake City. And I was totally committed, willing to do it, traveled quite a bit to Salt Lake City a couple times a month. And then we were developing real estate in 21 states. So there's also a component of getting out and seeing the real estate and understanding and learning the markets.
Sure.
So it was a lot to balance. I look back now and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? But at the time, yeah, I made it work. I've got my great support system at home. My husband does travel quite a bit too, but we figured it out and we made it work.
Did you consider moving?
It wasn't really an option for us, for a lot of reasons. Like, I love Des Moines. I'm very rooted in my community.
Yeah.
I'm a person that has a big tribe and they're important to me, my people. And so moving to Salt Lake City wouldn't work for that. The other reason is we have a blended family. And so, we are not parents that aren't going to be at the games and, you're going to miss some, but we're going to be involved. We're going to be there. It wouldn't work for us to be parents that are around, 1 month in the summer or something like that with our kids. And I wasn't going to live kids.
Right.
So
plus you'd probably have to leave that Hy-Vee part-time job.
I would have to finally leave that job. So it just didn't work.
It's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. So you eventually you exit and talk to me about the new role.
Yes.
In McClure.
So I found out about 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, that Maverick was going to close the Des Moines office and laid off most of my team. I'd worked with some people 20 plus years, and then so I was always focused on them. They're what really kept me going through all of that. But then it's like, I got to start focusing on me and what's next for me. And so I found that hard to do because I'm always thinking about others and what am I going to do for them? And so, I was having coffee with other real estate developers saying, who do you need? Better believe my first text was to all the retailers in town saying, I have a very talented team. What do you need? Who can we place?
Yep.
Like who wants them? Because they've not, been on the market for a long time and now they are. So then I started to focus on me and what I wanted. And so what I ended up doing actually was going away for a couple days and having like a retreat by myself, which was scary in itself. I never spend time alone. I'm surrounded by people all the time and, just really did a lot of self-reflection, thinking about what's important to me. And I hadn't updated a real resume for over 20 years and, started working through that and started meeting with several different companies just to see what opportunities are out there. And I'm the type, my vision really was a CEO that is visionary, knows where they want to go. I'm not a super visionary, futuristic person. I can do it. It's just not my strength. But I am what I wake up and think about and dream about is how to take that vision and make it happen. I'm a get it done. Mm-hmm. I am the integrator. Exactly. And so started meeting with different groups, kind of exploring what that looks like, thinking about what are my must-haves, what are things that I don't have to have, and met with McClure Engineering. So texted the CEO. I had met him before. And a big mentor of mine, his name is Dennis Folden. He was Kum Go's COO for a long, long time. Once he retired from Kum Go, could only stay retired, a few weeks and ended up at McClure, started off part-time and then eventually was their president. And so he had put a lot of things in place, I would say culturally, that really align with my leadership values and leadership style. And so it felt very much like a cultural match for me. So I met with the CEO, Dustin Leo, and just started talking through, what the possibilities would be. And I told him, as I'm looking at these different opportunities, I compare a lot of them to the environment at McClure, where it's a smaller size company than I've been at, but that's what I want because I want to be able to really make an impact. It's doing real estate development, which I love doing. And I'm on the consulting side of the business now, which is a different side of the business than I've been on, but I really can have an impact and touch a lot of different developments. Instead of working for one owner, I now can help a lot of owners and a lot of developers with their developments and everything. And so when I met with Dustin, it felt right as he started to put the opportunity together for me to join McClure.
That's terrific.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy, or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
So in your role, maybe tell me a little about how you make an impact for a developer. What are all the things that you and the McClure does that maybe it's not just a single line item which you can do, but you kind of sounds like you run the gamut.
Yeah, so certainly we do a full suite of civil engineering consulting. Everything from, your early on feasibilities, design, entitlements, permitting, construction administration. And so that is our bread and butter, the main services that we're selling and that my team's leading. And so my team leads the private development side, land development. We also have teams that lead more of the public side and are doing the work with cities, bridges and roads, wastewater, aviation, those teams as well. Really, where I think we make a difference for developers. I mean, for me specifically, I've been the client for the last 20 plus years. So I have a good idea of what the client wants. And I think I do a good job of translating what the client wants to the engineer that's delivering that. And a lot of times, sometimes that's the soft skills. It's project management, it's communication, it's hitting the deadlines, it's pushing the project forward. As well as you have to have, obviously quality engineering. That's kind of table stakes in our business today. The other advantage that I have is for our clients, just having been in their shoes, I think like a developer, I think like an owner. And so I can also bring that personally to them and help evaluate their developments if they want, and also translate that, to our team that's delivering that. We also at McClure have a real estate development company called ATI Group that's doing a lot of great developments, primarily around Iowa. They historically have done a lot of single-family residential developments, but then they redeveloped the Fort Dodge Mall, currently have the Waterloo Mall going.
Sure. Yeah.
And so some other developments to really transform some underutilized assets in cities and really get those areas more vibrant, than they had been.
Yeah. Folks are coming to you and developers are coming to you. Is it primarily users like a Kum Go? Somebody's going to be doing this for their own property, or you're getting speculative? You're getting investors coming and putting things together to go sell off pieces.
Yeah, we get both. I mean, we certainly get the end users. We also get the developers that are, then recruiting the end users in that may lease space or they may flip some pads to them after we've gotten it all platted and approved and so forth.
Yeah. With this deep experience in terms of what you do, what is it that you invest in?
Me personally?
Yeah.
So one of the neat things within this role is that I have the opportunity to invest. It's one of the things that attracted me to McClure. Invest in the company. It's an ESOP, but also invest in some of our real estate developments. So I like to do that. In the past, I've done a little bit of residential development myself with some partners. And then, certainly invest in other like investment, stock market, things like that.
Yeah. A lot of people I talk to think, development is probably the riskiest end of the scale, but you, from your background, your expertise, and then now an opportunity, you lean into that. Where does that fit in your mind from a risk standpoint and where you put your dollars?
It's just analyzing the risk, analyzing the downside. So let's say the development doesn't work, doesn't pencil out maybe the way you thought. So is the return 1% less? Usually there's always a residual value. And so when I lay out pro formas, I'm thinking, usually three different options. Okay, here is the most likely case. Here's if we really, blow it out of the water. And here's if there were maybe some costs we didn't anticipate or some type of market turn or something like that. But it really comes down to sound fundamentals within that analysis and looking at, what's most likely, what can we construct this for and what can the market bear? And you can push both of those things a little bit to see. But at the end of the day, it's just those sound fundamentals and math. But it's not like if it doesn't work, you walk away with nothing. And that's sometimes I don't think people realize that.
From day one at Come and Go to today, spent a lot of time there, and obviously you've got a whole new but not totally new thing today. How did you change as an individual?
Oh my gosh, so much. I mean, so when I first started off at Come and Go, I was ambitious. I wanted to grow, and I had mentioned I got a lot of early opportunities in the boardroom, a lot of exposure that my resume didn't really warrant. I mean, I had no business being in the boardroom, but I was given these opportunities and I looked around and it's a lot of people that are much older than me, usually male, very confident. Everyone was so confident in their decisions. And I thought everyone could just see right through me and see that I had no idea what I was doing, right? So I think just having that exposure and those experiences, I learned so much. And I see so many young people today that are looking to grow and they think, if I do this once, if I negotiate a lease, now I've got that on my resume. I'm an expert lease negotiator.
Right.
Like, no, you have to, especially with real estate development and leadership, you just have to have a lot of different experiences because every negotiation, every people interaction, every coaching, every situation is different. And so a lot of those experiences added up, to help me shape my leadership philosophy. And which really, instead of after a while, I pivoted from in the beginning, I was trying to fake it, and sometimes I would try to act like the other people in the boardroom,
Sure.
The confident, like I knew what I was doing. And what I eventually came around to is that wasn't authentic for me. And I am more of a servant leader, which I would say in the beginning of Come and Go was a little more command and control situation. And so I really started to lean in and grow more confidence in who I was and what was authentic to me. And that really played out better with my team. I was there to support them, build those trusting relationships, but it took me a long time to figure that out.
Sounds like it was an evolution.
Most certainly was an evolution. And that's the number one thing that I tell people as I'm coaching them and what I interview for is, can they take feedback? Because I feel like I can train anyone if they're open to it, if they're open to feedback,
Sure.
if they're self-aware. But there's so many people that don't want to hear it. And it is scary, right? To get a little bit of feedback. And I say it in a very, trusting, nice way, coming from a caring place. But if we don't lean in and grow in those ways, we're never going to become better. And it took me a long time. In the beginning, I didn't want to hear feedback because it meant I wasn't good enough.
Right.
And I truly started to see that as a gift. And so I think leadership wise, that changed me a lot. I think personally through that period of time, my husband passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm. I've lost multiple friends to brain cancer since that in the last 18 months.
Wow.
I mean, just a lot of tragedy in my life. And I read a book, Option B by Sheryl Sandberg, and it really talks about okay, you knew what your life was going to be. Option A, and then that life is taken away.
Yeah.
And do you sit there and do you, regret that? Do you lean in and yearn for what your life was supposed to be? Or do you make the most out of the deck of cards you've been dealt? And it's not always easy, but that's really what I've tried to do is to lean into that and to make the most of it. And so sometimes I'll see people at work or people in my life and they're getting all worked up about something that's so small. And sometimes I want to pull them aside. In the scheme of things, this isn't that big of a deal.
Right.
We can figure out this solution. This isn't like losing this person and this person and this person. Sometimes if I'm close enough, I'll tell them, I hope you don't have to go through what I went through to learn these life lessons and figure out how to put things in perspective,
Incredible. Where did you find the inner strength?
I'm surrounded by a big tribe, people that I care about. I certainly have a faith, that guides me. And a lot of times, more lately, as things are going on, I think about what is the universe trying to teach me right now? Like as I'm going through challenging times, going through it at work or, could be parenting kids, whatever it is. I mean, we have this adversity all the time. What is it that I'm going to learn from this? So when I'm having like a good day, it's like, okay, like there's something that's going to come out of this that I learn. Every single time I get pushed and I grow and I become better or I learn in some way. Yeah. And so I don't always know what that is at the moment, but usually as you get through it, you think, okay, that was a real growing moment. So sometimes I'll be like, I'm done growing. I'm done. I'm good. Can I coast? Can I just coast for a little while?
It's tremendous framework that you have, that you possess to be able to take something, an event, whatever that thing's thrown at you, and run it through a mental framework to largely reframe what it is, to go, how does this benefit me? What am I going to get from this? How do I grow from this?
Yeah. And where am I supposed to be of service right now? Now, I really believe in serving others and helping them through whatever they're going through and helping them grow. And so sometimes it's like through others, I do that. I will also say this is probably some sign of, anxiety or avoidance, but I am just a get it done kind of person. And so my project list is always going. I don't sit still, and so I read something like this busyness is an armor. You're trying to avoid feelings. You just go, 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 go. So you don't have to do that. So there's probably something in there that I'm, trying to avoid sitting still just by doing. And I've just got a lot of life to do.
Yeah,
so
2026, what are you most excited about?
Well, I've planned a few trips this year, and for whatever reason, I'm going to a lot of concerts. So I started off the year just thinking, I need a lot of things to look forward to. It's been kind of a crazy year. So I've got fun personal things just scattered throughout the year, mostly with my family and friends. Obviously I started a new role and really excited about that. I'm excited to feel like you get your rhythm down in that. I'm still in the learning phase and to really start to make an impact in my job. And so I'm still drinking from the fire hose. Sure. I'm still figuring all the things out. There's not a lot of muscle memory right now, but I can see it starting to come. In the beginning, it's like, I'm never going to remember everyone's name. Okay, got that down. Got a lot of the projects down, starting to make an impact. And so I can't wait to look back at the end of the year and see how far I've come in that with, such a pivot and role and starting at a new company, but wonderful company.
Okay, you ready for the final 3 questions?
Yes. Okay.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
It would be to lean in more to who I am and be very aware, not be afraid to raise my hand and say, I don't know this. I have questions. Yeah. Ask more questions and show more vulnerability. That's the other thing I had to learn along the way is to be vulnerable. And I was not vulnerable. And I don't see it as a weakness at all today. And that's where I see a lot of leaders get caught up is they don't show enough vulnerability.
2 books that changed your life.
Well, certainly Option B by Sheryl Sandberg. And I would say the 5 dysfunctions of a team, really learning to build teams and figuring it out. And a lot of that comes down to with that psychological safety and vulnerability.
If you were cast away on an island for a year, you can only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month. 3 things must you know.
This sounds like a question from the book Traction. Have you read Traction?
I've read Traction multiple times, and we operate on EOS here.
Okay. I feel like I could teach EOS seminars.
Sure.
So this is exactly what it is. So about my business, 3 pieces of data. So I would look at sales. I would look at because I think that's a good leading indicator of our profitability. I would look at utilization rates of the team, and I'd look at some type of pipeline metric, what's coming down the pipeline.
Niki, I've asked lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
I always ask this when I interview is, what do you like to do for fun? Because it's all about fun.
Yes, let's do it. I want to hear it.
So I like to spend a lot of time with family and friends. Yeah. With 4 kids, I don't have a ton of hobbies, but we do have a boat. We like to get out on the water. Whenever we travel, we got to get out on the water. So we'll be traveling here soon for spring break, and we've already got that boat booked. You got to see wherever you're going from the water.
Totally different perspective, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Niki, this has been wonderful. I'm deeply appreciative of your time. For people that want to find you, follow you, connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'd have to think of what my profile is.
We will get we will have the link. The link will be below in the show notes for anybody.
Yeah. Or email me, nmason@mcclurevision.com.
That'll be below in the show notes as well. Niki, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? Does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.